From the kitchen of the cabin, it's the 5 Games for Doomsday review. Just one. Originality mostly doesn't work. Most of the time, those that are truly original dwell at the fringes. Most of the time, the truly original are unpolished, rough, experimental. And this is the issue with pure originality. We just aren't used to it. And as we're a pattern-recognising species, we pull naturally towards the familiar. Not necessarily the comfortable, but something we can make sense of, that we can extrapolate from without help, something we can map onto our own lives because we are nothing, if not self-obsessed. It's only when the crystals of originality have been buffed smooth and dropped into a fitting of familiarity that we can look back and say, oh, that came from there, and place the credit where it's due. It takes a Wilder to ameliorate a Lang, a Green Day to pacify a Death. Originality is all price and no value. Then, every so often, something original is birthed fully formed and fully comprehensible to all of us. We look and see diamond and no rough. We grasp the original even though it breaks all the rules, even though it is unfamiliar. Sometimes there is just a rapper's delight or a French connection, and its tone is so pure that we all just sing along. This was the case with Codenames, compressed carbon in game form. A game that is so beautifully defined, so glacially clear and yet so original. The gaming version of the opening 4 chords in Smells Like Teen Spirit. When this happens, there is the inevitable scramble to find the next Nirvana, and the ripples are felt for years. There are craven rip-offs, while others are adaptations, buddings from the tree of culture. Just One is a game that feels like a response to Codenames, an attempt to better it, but it's much more dweezil and much less frank. In Just One, players play cooperatively to guess words from single-word clues that are given to them by their teammates. The player that is on reveals a card to the team without looking at it themselves. This card carries 5 words. The player chooses a number, and the team each secretly writes a single-word clue. Then they check that no one has written the same clue, otherwise these clues will be eliminated from the round, and then the guesser tries to guess the word. This continues until a certain number of rounds have been played, each correctly guessed word yielding points, each wrongly guessed word yielding minuses, and then scores are tallied, and the final score is connected to a paragraph of text, like a Cosmo sex quiz. Now, before I continue, I want to make it clear that Just One is not a bad game. It's just fine. But I think it will garner undeserved attention due to its nomination for a Spiel des Jahres. Just One feels like a game designed by someone who played Codenames and thought, there's gold in them there word games. I understand that game publishing is not a voluntary act, but my concern is not with the profitability of a game, but its worth in being an artifact that promotes experience. I appraise games as art and as products, but I'm fully aware that they are both. But when there is a bias towards the product rather than the art, that is a negative for me. If you want to find out about profitability, go and read Forbes or the FT. If you want to know if the game has intrinsic worth outside the muck of the mercantile, then you'll find that here. Just One feels like a goal that has had a game built around it. It's fine in a saccharine candy floss kind of way, but it's far from being a full meal. It also suffers from the flaw that many party games suffer from, in that winning or losing doesn't really matter. One of the reasons why Codenames was so brilliant was that it was a party game, one that people could dip in and out of, that had a clear and defined end, a point at which to cheer or groan, a climax rather than a slow diminuendo. Great games end, mediocre ones linger. Just One feels like a game that wanted to capture the magic of Codenames, but, in the end, was just a faded flyer, a flimsy copy. There is simply not the rigour, but also there is none of that undefinable quality that Codenames has. We have a name for that. It's genius. Also, and this may just be my group, the introduction of pedantry can grind this game to a halt as people pick over the definitions of words, pull out phones and check Webster's. I've played a few bad-tempered games of Just One. I know this can happen in all games, but Just One offers ample opportunity to flex one's truculent muscle. This game will do well by the Spiel des Jahres nomination, and its inclusion is far from egregious. It's just not all that exciting. Originality can sometimes be a curse, and Just One avoids this admirably by containing none whatsoever. Thank you for listening, and you can support this podcast by going to patreon.com/5G4D.